A scary mystery about siblings in Michigan. Imagine spending your life believing you know those closest to you, only to discover they've been guarding a chilling secret for over 2 decades. Family secrets can profoundly shape our lives, sometimes hindering our pursuit of true happiness. When such truths emerge, it can feel as though the very foundations of our world are crumbling. Trusting after such a long concealment is fraught with risks. It's daunting to consider the possibility of living alongside someone, aware of their dark secrets, yet choosing silence. Were personal motives involved, or was it something more? Today, we delve into a gripping tale of love, betrayal, and a complex mystery involving unresolved crimes that disturb the tranquility of Holland, Michigan. The story's backdrop is as startling as the events themselves, stirring local residents into a frenzy of speculation. It took years for investigators to piece together the puzzle, leading to a long-awaited trial. Yet, questions lingered. Was justice truly served? Born on April 24, 1965, Gail Wingarden was the 8th child in the Wendell and Dorothy Wingarden family, growing up in Ottawa County, Michigan. Despite not being affluent, the Wingardens were rich in kinship and warmth, exemplifying the essence of a loving, tightly knit family unit. From a young age, Gail harbored aspirations beyond her modest upbringing. Dreaming of financial independence, she confided in her sister Cheryl about her determination to work hard and achieve a lifestyle where she could afford luxuries that were once out of reach. Her first job as a waitress during her teenage years was a step towards this dream. Although the wage was minimal, her charismatic and engaging personality helped her earn substantial tips, fueling her ambitions. By 18, Gail was deeply in love and moved in with her boyfriend, sharing dreams of building a future together. However, after a year, their relationship dissolved. Undeterred, Gail's life took a significant turn in 1984 when, at the age of 19, she met Rick Brink, a 25-year-old contractor. Their connection sparked a new chapter in her life, hinting at the mysteries and challenges yet to come. It was as if they were destined to be together. Gail, compelled by a whirlwind of new emotions, ended her prior relationship to fully immerse herself in her budding romance with Rick. From the moment they met, Rick was so enchanted by Gail that he declared to his mother that very day that he had found the woman he would marry. Their relationship flourished rapidly, filled with picturesque dates and romantic escapades. Rick spared no effort in making Gail feel cherished, attending to her every desire. Their love was deep and fulfilling, and they were an ideal pair, both ambitious and vibrant. They shared common goals, dreaming of hard work, paying off with a stable home where they could eventually raise a family. During one idyllic summer, they visited Rick's family lake house on Lake Michigan. It was there that Gail first tried water skiing, an experience that only deepened their bond. Observers often remarked on their palpable chemistry, labeling them the quintessential couple. On April 25, 1986, the day before Gail's birthday, they exchanged vows in a quaint church ceremony surrounded by their loved one. The future looked promising for the newlywed. Rick's father, Garrett Brink, played a pivotal role in securing their dream home, an aging property set on 20 acres on the outskirts of Holland, Michigan. Garrett managed to strike an exceptional deal on the house located on Ransom Street, and the couple was excited to begin renovations. Rick, who worked as a skilled handyman and trained carpenters at a local furniture company, was well equipped for the task. By October 1987, they had moved into their partially refurbished abode. They documented their journey of transforming the old house into a warm home through videos, showcasing their efforts in painting, demolishing walls, and floor repairs. 18 months into their marriage, during a heartfelt conversation with her sister, Gail revealed plans for the next big project, the nursery. They felt ready to expand their family, hoping to fill their lovingly renovated home with the laughter of children. On November 20th, the day after the wedding, an unsettling quiet fell over the Brink household when neither Rick nor Gail appeared for their respective jobs. Rick, a dedicated employee at Trenway, a prominent furniture company, was particularly known for his reliability. His absence without any notice raised immediate concerns. Rick's supervisor, sensing something was amiss, attempted to reach him at home but received no answer. Growing more concerned, the supervisor reached out to Rick's parents, inquiring if they had any information about his unusual absence. Knowing their son's responsible nature, they too were troubled by the silence. Realizing that something serious might be at hand, they decided to check on Gail's attendance at her workplace, only to discover that she too had failed to show up that morning. Alarmed by these discoveries, Rick's parents hurried to the couple's home, hoping for some answers. Relief briefly washed over them when they spotted Rick's car in the driveway. Perhaps the couple was simply ill or had overslept. However, as they drew closer to the vehicle, their relief turned to horror. They found Rick inside, slumped over in a distressing position, his knees on the floor beneath the steering wheel, leaning awkwardly toward the passenger seat. Garrett approached the car and called out to his son, but received no response. A touch on Rick's shoulder confirmed the worst. He was unresponsive, and Garrett noticed a grim sign. Blood was seeping from his head. Overwhelmed with fear and not daring to enter the house alone, Rick's parents immediately called the Ottawa County Sheriff's Department for help. When the deputies arrived, they cautiously entered the home to search for Gail. In the bedroom, they found her seemingly asleep, covered with a pillow. The scene was eerily calm until they removed the pillow, revealing it was stained with blood. Gail, too, had met a tragic end. The serene setting of their home had been shattered by an inexplicable violence that had claimed both their lives. Tragically, Gail had been shot 3 times at close range. As backup arrived swiftly, a team of investigators commenced a thorough examination of the home. They scoured each corner, seeking any trace of evidence that might point to the perpetrator, painstakingly assembling the fragments of the narrative that led to this brutal incident. Initial speculations by the officers suggested a targeted attack on Gail, followed perhaps by a distraught Rick turning the gun on himself. However, this theory was quickly dismantled when a search of Rick's car revealed no weapon. There was nothing to indicate that he had inflicted harm on Gail or himself. This abrupt and violent conclusion to their once idyllic life left investigators grappling with a mystery devoid of clear motives or suspects, overturning the couple's dreams of a blissful future together. The murder weapon was identified as a .22 caliber revolver. Autopsy results later confirmed that Rick had also been shot twice in the head at close range. A bullet hole was evident in the passenger side window of his car, which was shattered, while the driver's side window was found partially rolled down. These details led investigators to believe the assailant was likely someone familiar to the couple, someone Rick might have willingly rolled down his window to greet without suspecting the impending danger. Further analysis within the house supported the theory that this was not a random act of violence, such as a robbery. The lack of forced entry, absence of any signs of a struggle, and the orderly state of their belongings suggested a different narrative. Both Rick and Gail's wallets were left untouched on the kitchen table, containing cash and credit cards, and some jewelry was found scattered around the house, yet nothing appeared stolen. The preservation of personal items, including their wedding rings still on their fingers, reinforced the idea of a premeditated attack aimed solely at ending their lives. No weapon or shell casings were found at the scene. The only bullets detected were those tragically remaining in the victims. This pointed to a chilling conclusion. The assailant had arrived with the explicit purpose of murder. Regarding physical evidence, it was either non-existent or insufficient for meaningful analysis. Investigators found 6 fingerprints inside the home. 4 were identified as belonging to Rick and Gail, but the remaining 2 did not match any records in law enforcement databases. Forensic analysis determined that the couple was murdered in the early hours of November 22nd, following their last known appearance. Despite the cloud of rumors and speculation that surrounded the case, few were willing to come forward with information. The lack of concrete evidence thwarted any immediate arrests or identification of suspects. However, authorities confirmed that the last sighting of the couple was around 11 p.m. on November 21st as they departed a friend's wedding reception. The timeline suggested their murders occurred sometime between this sighting and the next day, almost a full day before their bodies were discovered. To unravel the events leading to their deaths, investigators pursued inquiries among those who had last interacted with the couple, including friends, family, and co-workers. The first significant interview was with Gail's brother, Ryan Wingarden, who recalled a troubling incident involving Gail's ex-boyfriend. This ex had publicly confronted Gail, expressing unresolved feelings and jealousy, even urging her to return to him despite her happy marriage. As weeks turned into a month, the focus on motorcycle gangs waned and was eventually abandoned. Then on Christmas Eve, a new incident occurred close to where the Brinks lived. Deborah Wilson was found fatally wounded in her backyard, having sustained a severe neck injury. It emerged during the investigation that she and Gail had attended the same high school and shared mutual friends, sparking speculation about a connection between the two crimes. The community was enveloped by fear, with residents of the small town on high alert, terrified of the violence seemingly drawing closer to their own lives. The randomness of the attacks left everyone deeply unsettled, fearing they could be next. Yet, despite the initial flurry of theories linking the two cases, no substantive evidence emerged to connect Deborah's assault with the murders of Rick and Gail. As time passed, the investigation into Rick and Gail's death stalled and was eventually archived. The case files were relegated to storage, untouched for nearly 2 decades, and the hope for resolution dimmed among their family and friends. They were forced to come to terms with the possibility that the truth behind the tragic events might forever remain elusive. 20 years later, however, a glimmer of hope emerged. In 2009, the Ottawa County Sheriff's Office established a cold case unit dedicated to revisiting unresolved crimes. By 2011, detectives Venus Repper and David Blakely chose to reopen the Brink couple's case, poring over the old files and conducting over 200 interviews. Their strategy was to leverage the passage of time to their advantage. With new perspectives and lessened loyalties, the cold case team hoped to uncover overlooked details or prompt new testimonies from those previously unwilling to speak. Detective Repper emphasized the importance of this approach, noting that over time, loyalties and friendships evolve, and those who once held secrets might now be prepared to reveal them. For about 7 to 8 years, detectives Repper and Blakely meticulously worked the case, determined to piece together the events that led to the untimely deaths of Rick and Gail. Their perseverance and innovative approach breathed new life into a long-dormant investigation, opening up possibilities that had once seemed permanently closed. Following the closure of the Deborah Wilson case, where the suspect had deceased, detectives refocused on the unresolved murder of Rick and Gail Brink. Nearly a year later, they began reaching out to Gail's family members for interviews. When they spoke with Gail's sister, Cheryl Murphy, and one of her aunts, they stumbled upon some intriguing and disturbing information. Both Cheryl and the aunt shared that Ryan Wingarden, Gail's brother, had made several unsettling comments over the years that had alarmed them. These remarks began around the time of Rick and Gail's funeral. The aunt vividly remembered a chilling question from Ryan asking, "Do you think I could have done it?" This comment had deeply disturbed her, leading her to speculate about a potential link to a family dispute that occurred just before the murders on November 20th. According to Gail's aunt, Gail had expressed frustrations about Ryan on the night before her murder. Gail had complained that Ryan owed her money and was procrastinating on paying it back. Shortly after this complaint, Ryan himself called the aunt, airing grievances about Gail. He accused her of acting superior to the rest of the family and being unreasonable about not allowing their parents to park their camper on her driveway. The aunt knew that the parking issue had been a long-standing source of tension within the Wingarden family. She explained that Gail's parents had sold their house and were temporarily residing in their camper on Ryan's property. However, this arrangement was against county zoning regulations, prompting Ryan to seek alternative solutions, which included unsuccessfully asking Gail to accommodate the camper near her home. During these conversations, both Cheryl and the aunt recounted that Ryan had ominously remarked, "Sometimes I wonder if I did it because of that argument," seemingly referring to the murders. This statement further deepened the detectives' interest in Ryan as a potential suspect. Upon reviewing the case files, detectives discovered that Ryan and his girlfriend Pam had initially been questioned shortly after the murders. They claimed to have spent the evening at a laundromat and later at a friend's house doing laundry. However, detectives noted that this friend had never been contacted to confirm their alibi. In light of these revelations, Ryan and Pam were brought in for further questioning in October 2012. Their continued union, having married years after the crime, and their presence in each other's lives added layers to the ongoing mysteries surrounding the case. The investigation pressed on, with detectives eager to untangle the web of family secrets and unearth the truth behind the tragic deaths of Rick and Gail. During the initial questioning, Pam admitted that their 1987 alibi was fabricated. They had not been at a friend's house as previously stated. However, she maintained her belief in Ryan's innocence. Due to Ryan's insistence on legal representation, a personnel specialist attended her subsequent interview on January 15, 2013, where Pam refrained from further disclosures. Detectives, suspecting that Pam might be withholding information, visited her at work 3 days later to pose additional questions. This time, she opted to proceed without the personnel specialist, and during the conversation, she began to reveal more. The discussion was moved to the police station, where Pam ultimately confessed to a harrowing truth. She disclosed that Ryan had confessed to her years ago that he was responsible for the murders of his sister and brother-in-law. A few months after this admission, Ryan had taken her to the Brinks home before the bodies were discovered, where she saw the tragic scene firsthand. Pam had remained silent for 25 years, driven by both love and fear, as Ryan had threatened her life should she ever speak out. Pam also provided a motive behind Ryan's actions. He was driven by jealousy of Rick's happiness and success, coupled with the fear that Gail might expose a dark family secret involving an incestuous relationship between her and Ryan. This testimony led to Ryan Weingarten's arrest and charge with first-degree murder. At his trial, Ryan discussed under oath several close encounters with Gail during their teenage years. He described these interactions as driven by mutual curiosity and nothing beyond. When questioned about their intimacy, he portrayed their actions as exploratory due to youthful curiosity, which was abruptly halted by their mother's entrance. He further claimed that on another occasion, they found marijuana in their father's truck and under its influence engaged in inappropriate touching. He stressed that these incidents were isolated and had ceased entirely afterwards. Ryan's testimony aimed to provide context to their complex sibling relationship, but also painted a picture of troubled family dynamics. Ryan consistently asserted that his teenage interactions with Gail were consensual and strictly limited to touching. His trial commenced in March 2014, with Pam serving as the cornerstone of the prosecution's case. The courtroom also heard testimonies from Ryan's aunt and his sister Cheryl, both of whom shared unsettling remarks Ryan had made over the years, casting a shadow on his character. Additionally, a friend of Ryan named Jim Meacham testified, recalling routine morning visits to Ryan's home for coffee and conversation. On the morning of November 23rd, Jim visited Ryan, who nonchalantly mentioned that his sister and her husband were dead. Jim, assuming the comment was innocuous, did not probe further. Intriguingly, Jim noted that Ryan shared this news hours before the bodies were officially discovered, a point that later became contentious. The defense challenged Jim's recollection, suggesting that the timing of his conversation with Ryan might have been after the discovery of the bodies, not before. They argued that the long span of over 25 years since the event could have clouded his memory, introducing reasonable doubt about the accuracy of his statement. Further, the defense highlighted the lack of physical evidence linking Ryan to the murders, pointing out that the case against him hinged primarily on Pam's testimony, which was unsupported by forensic proof. On March 28, 2014, despite these arguments, the jury convicted Ryan Weingarten of first-degree murder in the deaths of Rick and Gail Brink, deliberating for only 4 hours. Following the verdict, Ryan's sister, Cheryl Murphy, expressed relief, saying, "We're done. We finally got him." Shortly thereafter, Judge John Hulsing sentenced Ryan to 2 consecutive life sentences without parole, condemning him as a cruel, cold-blooded criminal. Ryan maintained his innocence throughout, never confessing to the crimes. Over the subsequent year, both the prosecution and defense continued to elaborate on their theories. The defense persisted in suggesting that the killings might have been a case of mistaken identity targeting the house's former owner. They noted that Gail had other serious relationships before Rick, none of which had caused issues with Ryan, arguing against the motive of jealousy or a desire to hide an incestuous relationship. To undermine Pam's credibility, the defense questioned her delayed revelation, asking why she had waited over 20 years to come forward with her accusations. This tactic aimed to cast doubt on her motives and the authenticity of her testimony, framing it as potentially unreliable due to the lengthy interim. To summarize the situation, Pam met Ryan a few months before the murders occurred. In her testimony, she recounted that Ryan confessed to the crime shortly afterward and even took her to see the bodies the day before they were officially discovered by Rick's parents. He threatened her with harm if she ever disclosed what she had seen. At the time of the crime, Pam was neither Ryan's wife nor the mother of his children. Yet, despite knowing he was responsible for his sister's death, she continued the relationship, later marrying him and starting a family. This aspect of their relationship shocked many, given the circumstances. While the defense argued that the motive presented was tenuous and lacked forensic support, the prosecution pointed to the nature of the killings, each victim shot in the head and face, as indicative of a personal vendetta. In August 2015, Ryan Weingarten's appeal was considered by the courts. His defense team argued for overturning the conviction or granting a new trial, primarily contending that Pam's testimony, which lacked corroboration, was the sole evidence against him. They suggested that the jury should have been shown her police interviews to evaluate possible manipulation by investigators. However, the appeal was denied and Ryan's life sentence without parole was upheld. The considerable time lapse between the crime and its resolution posed significant challenges to the case. The absence of the murder weapon, lack of forensic evidence, and the speculative nature of the proposed motive by the prosecution were all points of contention. Although not required for a conviction, a compelling motive often influences jury decisions. A potentially more convincing motive might have been the ongoing dispute between Ryan and Gail regarding the parking arrangement for their parents' camper, yet this was not the focus of the trial. It's worth noting that Ryan had no prior criminal history, which sometimes influences perceptions of guilt. However, a clean past does not conclusively indicate innocence. Some individuals simply evade detection. The primary evidence against Ryan was the testimony of those close to him, particularly his wife. While the comments from his aunt and sister about his odd remarks over the years added an air of suspicion, they fell short of serving as conclusive evidence. The defense's suggestion that Pam might have been coerced by detectives into giving a damning testimony raises questions about the integrity of the investigation and whether any manipulation might have influenced the outcome of the trial. Pam's interrogations yielded crucial insights, yet there was speculation that she might have been contemplating divorce and saw this as an opportunity to sever ties with Ryan for good. This theory was never substantiated, but it raises concerns about the reliability of sentencing someone to life based on the account of an individual who purported to fear her husband for a quarter of a century without any outward signs of this fear. The question arises, why didn't Pam approach the police earlier, particularly before she was married and had fewer complications in leaving Ryan? And if she had confided in anyone, why didn't they come forward? Detectives acknowledge that over the years, people's loyalties can change. Those who once harbored secrets might later decide to reveal them, whether to clear their conscience or because they no longer feel bound to protect someone. This case presents a complex web that complicates drawing a definitive conclusion. The heavy reliance on Pam's sole testimony in the absence of corroborating evidence casts doubt on the integrity of the conviction. Was the jury's decision sound, or was the prosecution's argument too dependent on assertions yet to be proven? The overarching question remains, was justice truly served, or does the potential for a miscarriage of justice linger in this case? What are your thoughts on the outcome?